Thank you for joining us for Autodesk Presents CXO Winsights powered by Manufacturing Today from the House of ITP Media India. Manufacturing Today India is a leading magazine for professionals in the manufacturing sector. News and features in the magazine encompasses everything related to production, automation, machine tools, plant heads, supply chain, technology, among other things. The site includes the latest news, analysis, and comments from our team of journalists, up-to-date industry data and contacts, and a whole host of business opportunities in the form of relevant tenders, project announcements, and industry jobs. As you are aware, digitization, agility, and sustainability are interconnected and can help drive organizational resilience in these uncertain times. With the dynamics of manufacturing are getting re-engineered, reinvented, and reskilled have become some of the new differentiators in today's time. We are putting together a knowledge platform for a select group of CXOs and the decision makers who will share their key experiences and lessons on how to overcome current challenges and convert some of them into new opportunities for their businesses. Our esteemed panelists, Jagdish Ramaswamy, President and Chief Digital Officer, Hindalco Industries Limited. Mr. Ramaswamy is an electronics engineer with a postgraduate certificate in statistical quality control, operations research, and reliability from the Indian Statistical Institute. His current responsibility as Chief Digital Officer and Head of Business Excellence, his team is driving the digital and IT agenda of Hindalco Industries that includes organizational process digitization, customer-centric digital initiatives, and operational digitalization, including IoT, analytics, etc. In his earlier role as President of the Corporate Business Excellence Group at Aditya Birla Management Corporation Private Limited, his team was guiding the group on creating factories that follow world-class manufacturing practices, guiding the businesses on best practices, assessments on business excellence through Aditya Birla Business Excellence Framework, Six Sigma, Lean, and Group Knowledge Management Practices. We also have Parminder Singh, Country Head Design and Manufacturing and Media Entertainment India and SAC Autodesk. Parminder Singh has more than 2 decades experience in enabling large enterprise organizations in their digitalization journey. He started his career at Tata Elxsi in 1998 and 3 years later joined Vodafone in the year 2001, based out of Mumbai. In 2002, he went out to join Siemens PLM and was responsible for their auto and industrial equipment OEMs across the Western region. Post a successful stint, in 2005, he took on the responsibility for industrial equipment, marine, and offshore industries based out of Gurgaon. In 2010, he joined Dassault Systems as Regional Manager, North India, and subsequently took on the role to grow the aerospace and defense and marine and offshore industry from 2012 to 2016. He led the CPG industry from 2017 to 2018. And thereafter, in 2019, he took on the role of the Director of Transportation and Mobility in North India. Parminder brings along vast experience of creating value propositions, leading teams from the front, building strategies for win-backs, and stakeholder management and partnership skills with the CXOs across India. Next, we have Vineet Sahni, Group Chief Executive Officer, Lumax DK Jain Group and Senior Executive Director, Lumax Industries Limited. A flagship company of the DK Jain Group oversees the entire operations of the group. A veteran in automotive industry with over 32 years having demonstrated his unique leadership style, he has a rich experience of more than 20 years in the automotive lighting sector and has been instrumental in promoting self-reliance in technology for Indian engineers. He has an extremely rich techno-commercial background. He's an engineer from Delhi College of Engineering and PG Diploma in Business Management 1989, MSPI Delhi, and started his career with Tata Motors. He has held various senior positions at other major players in the auto components industry. This discussion will be moderated by Anbu Varadhan, Director General and CEO, IMTA, the Apex Industry Association for Machine Tool Sector in India, and also the President of UFI, the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry. Anbu is a metallurgical engineer from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and has working experience of about 30 years. Prior to joining IMTA, he has, with the Confederation of Indian Industry, was heading various key areas of technology IPR activities. Over to you, Mr. Varadhan.
Thank you, Amrita. It is an honor and privilege to be here along with a great panel at this CXO roundtable. And let me thank Manufacturing Today for putting together this wonderful topic. And it is very, very relevant in today's context. Reimagined CXO priorities in the re-engineered world of manufacturing. Today, when we look at the Indian industry and Indian manufacturing segment, we are at a very interesting position. The first and second wave of the pandemic made a huge impact on our country as well as our industries. And our industries were a little more prepared and more resilient during the second wave of the pandemic, though we still have the possibility of a third wave, but I think as a nation, we are better prepared. And with massive vaccination program going on in the country, driven by government and supported by industries, all segments of industry, I think we can move towards a relative normalcy soon. When we look at the past couple of years, especially the last 18 months after the COVID struck us, and government has been playing a very, very important role, a vital role for the nation to emerge stronger from the pandemic impact and also keeping the future growth in mind. Some of the key measures include giving impetus to the capital expenditure in the budget and raising the budget for the capex to almost 5.554 lakh crore, which is an increase of almost 35%, and not imposing any new taxes. Larger budget outlays for most manufacturing segments, including railways, etc., and also having a special focus on technology and healthcare, and reducing the corporate tax, effective corporate tax to 25%, with greenfield projects to 15%, and PLI schemes and incentives for almost 13 new segments, including big ticket items like electronics, and expanding ECLGS to 3 lakh crores of support, and a number of initiatives for MSMEs, and of course, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India focus. Along with that, when you look at India making huge strides, I think we see a lot of progress in FDI, ease of doing business, land reforms, and also banking and financial sector reforms, etc. When you look at the big picture of our industry, our manufacturing, India has a vision to reach $5 trillion economy size by middle of this decade. When we get there, our manufacturing alone should touch $1 trillion size. This requires a huge focus on technology in general, digital, Industry 4.0, and innovation across all verticals. When we talk about Industry 4.0, we are talking about convergence of variety of technologies. When you talk about impact of technology and also impact of 4.0, we are talking about connected factories, where digitalization playing a key role, right from procurement of raw material to production to customer service. And when we look at the key benefits, it includes overall efficiency, cost, profitability, better quality, safety, and so on. However, the success is not automatic. You can't take it for granted. Actually, when you look at our entire manufacturing, the digital and technology penetration is so low. Okay, that's an area of concern. However, we have huge potential, huge opportunities. And the next few years, the initiatives what we're going to take would actually decide our future. And this is where the leadership will play a very, very important role. So this session is all about that. That's the background. Okay, and what could be the role of technology, the role of digitalization, the role of innovation, and what could be the possible roadmaps for industry on the whole and for individual companies, and what could be the turnaround strategies, and what could be the people-related focus and people-related initiatives. That is what we are going to focus in this session. I'm sure with the experts like Jagdish and Vineet and Parminder joining, this should make it very, very interesting. So let me straight away move to the panel discussion. So Jagdish, I'm going to start with you with my first question. When we look at today, the Indian manufacturing, especially the post-COVID scenario, we always talk about technology, digitalization, that occupies our everyday discussion today, everyday agenda. Okay. My question is, what could be the roadmap when you look at the Indian manufacturing the next few years in terms of digitalization? And how do companies unlock a digital future? And what are your perspectives? And what is the big picture that you see when you look at the next 5 years and so on? Jagdish.
Thank you, Anbu, for putting this. I think you set the context beautifully by giving all the initiatives the government has taken. Broadly, I would want to address this into 4 or 5 very important areas. So if you look at what the pandemic has changed, it has in a way accelerated the digital. But without the pandemic, would you have done digital? The answer is yes. I think all of the companies were in some form or the other, the digital had become a core. But 3 things that has really become very, very important at the company's boardrooms. One is, how do you become holistically agile? How do you react? How do you respond to situations which are not under your control? I think this has taught us a lesson, and that can go back into the way you manage your company. Number 2, resilience in terms of ability to bounce back. And third, and very important, is the way we have been working. And I think today, if you look at, I can give an example that, the collaboration tool, like a Microsoft Team or a Zoom, people used to use, and it was a big change management activity to make them adopt. But just take the pandemic, and you know what happened in 24 hours? Everybody said, where is the Teams and where is the Zoom? So in a way, I would say this for digital, this is a blessing in disguise. The way it has accelerated the digital change management into the hands of the people. So what has happened today, what's not going to change is the following. 1, people will demand more applications, more data from you. Number 2, coming to office every day is gone. I think from across the board, whether it's manufacturing or services, every day coming to office is never going to happen. Number 3, I think people are going to become more digital because of the way they are being forced to. All of us, if you imagine, we're more digital at home than in office. Just turn back 2 years back. I think the agility with which you used Amazon or Make My Trip or Uber was far more, productive for you than what you were used to in office. Now in the office, people are going to demand Uberization of all your processes. So what does it mean? So 1, I think the work practices forever is going to change. It's going to become more digital. Number two, I think we have to be continuously on our feet to be agile and quickly make the changes in the processes. Number three, I think it has taught us, even in the adverse areas, we can all bounce back. It has really taught us the lesson that we can come together. So let me articulate a few areas of importance here. One is there is a huge demand now going forward for contactless or paperless operations. That's a given now. Because with the pandemic, I think most of the focus went into how can I let people enter? How can I let people pass the bills? How can I let people approve without touching? So one very important thing for at a very low level of digitization is going to be contactless transactions or contactless interfaces. And this is possible. And this is where the technologies like the augmented reality or the robotic process automations will see a huge pull from the customers. So, and video collaboration, like what we are doing today. Can you imagine that we would be having almost everyday panel discussions on a Zoom or a Teams? It was unthinkable for us. And the business are running without people traveling across the globe. That's number one. Number two, I think the way your processes are going to be designed now, data will be central to any process redesign from now on. How are you going to make the process digital? Which means how are you going to make people do their operations using data? And this doesn't start at the level of the CEOs or the CXOs. I'm talking about it's going to fundamentally change the way the operators run the shop floor, the supervisors manage the shop floor, their managers manage the output. Everything is going to become more digital. People are now getting used to WhatsApp is going to be on the floor. All that you're used to at home is going to be on the floor now. So your ability to get the people moving the data out of the production system into the hands of the operator supervisory staff is a priority. It can no more be inside your closed loop of OT. It has to come now to the IT side. Second, changing the process methods of the shop floor workers from using only their experience. Now they have to really build augmented reality. Tacit knowledge is going to be replaced, not replaced, but augmented by more of the digital knowledge in the way they're working. So this will basically allow the traditional approach of operation maintenance to change to a more resilient and efficient way, driven by data and technology, not by the tacit knowledge. Third one is about the way you are basically monitoring your operations. So gone are the days when you're going to have 100% of the people available in the shop floor. So what will change is the optimizing the operation through using digital, giving remote access to the operations, giving remote control centers where people can be instructed how to run the factories. And here is where the tools like remote operations and tools like advanced AI and ML will become very, very important. And more important for the shop floor is how are you going to manage and maintain your machines without entire workers being available all the time? So the predictive maintenance kind of models will accelerate very, very fast. The maintenance activities will get streamlined. You will go more of the event-based maintenance now. So really the digital transformation that we were waiting for all these years is going to be now happening in a forced manner. Fourth, the way you operate, the way you basically converse with your customers. Then again, that changes from a manufacturing company to a service company. I will restrict myself to how it's going to change for a manufacturing industry, right? So we used to think we are a B2B and, e-commerce or creating a customer ecosystem, it can come later. But right now, that's now taken a priority. How do you create customer ecosystems where you're available to customer 24/7, you're available to you have visibility to the customer in terms of what is the orders, where is it, where have you shipped. So in manufacturing industries like ours, we traditionally used to people making phone calls and trying to find where their goods are, when is the shipment going to happen. Today, customers saying, I don't want to reach any of you. Just give me a way by which I can know where is my shipment. So the way you engage with customer has to significantly change, like what a banking or a retail will do today. A manufacturing company like ours have to adopt to the new experience that customers are getting elsewhere. And the last two things which are fundamentally going to be changed is the network architecture. If all of these things I had said has to happen, we have to challenge two things. One is the network architecture has to completely become modern. You cannot have a closed loop architecture where everything sits within the four walls of your factory. You have to get out. You'll have to get networks architected to flow data freely, and then comes the cybersecurity. So for the IT and digital or the technology folks, it's going to become very critical that they learn and adopt new technologies in the networking and in the space of connectivity. And cybersecurity is going to take an extremely preferential view in the boardrooms in terms of investments. So broadly, this is what the change I'm seeing coming. And we cannot look back. You have no choice but to just move forward with this. Anbu, that's what I just thought I would share.
That's a very good perspective, Jagdish. I think you touched almost all the key aspects. Yeah, certainly, it's a boardroom agenda. It's only getting accelerated, and Uberization of processes. I completely agree. But essentially, it all depends on the network architecture, what you're going to adopt. Okay, so thanks for that perspective. And let me come to you, Vinit. You are not only a veteran in the auto segment, but you've been driving, the digital in the entire, your group companies. So I want to take up here two important aspects. When you move along the digitalization, journey, agility and sustainability, come as two important aspects of any winning organization. That's the characteristics. How do you see digitalization playing a role in achieving these two aspects? Okay, what are the insights? And especially when you look at today's world as an interconnected manufacturing world, and how do you see this technology and then digital playing a role? Your perspectives, Vinit.
Thank you, Anbu, and thank you, Jagdish. I think very interesting discussion. And I would like to bring both positive and negative parts of my own experience on digitization, because every aspect has both the sides, And I am very deeply into it, so I can share with you with my own personal experience. Quickly, in a minute, I'll explain to all of you that what is causing this change. The top management has gone through a frequent quenching exercise, hot and cold treatment in last 2 years. For last year, first quarter, there was zero revenue for let's say for 2 months. And then there was a V-shaped recovery. And all of us realized the importance of reducing the fixed cost as our profitability was much better than before. Right. So we have seen both the sides. We have seen losses and we have seen increased profitability due to reduced fixed costs due to our actions taken during pandemic. That is a very important point. So the management went through hot and cold treatment quickly in a year, which normally takes a decade to experience this kind of a process. Second important point was that across the world, complete supply chain and customer and partners went through the same problem. All were into the same circumstances. And therefore, the acceptance of the change, may it be digitization, may it be the fixed cost, may it be the way of management, people accepted this change easily. Otherwise, it takes decades to implement a change by one supplier or one customer, because there is no acceptance. There's a lot of resistance in the supply chain. Now, these are very two important aspects of this. Now, the experiences, you mentioned two things. One is agility and one is sustainability. They are extremely important. Let me first touch the agility part of it. The agility of an organization was always very important. Always, since the business started, However, the cost you spend to get that agility and the efforts that you spend to get that agility, that is changing through digitization. Because earlier, to get a particular kind of response, maybe I may have to make 10 calls or travel personally or to call a physical meeting. Today, it is easier. Wherever you are, you have access to things. I mean, today, sitting here, I can monitor which machine is performing, what is the OEE of that machine, what is the rejection rate, and there could be alarms into the system. There could be automatic escalations. These are very simple aspects, but important aspects from the agility, point of view. However, we should not ignore this. I am coming to the other side. Data is as good or bad as it is interpreted. Therefore, digitalization does not mean we are doing away with human mind and human talent. In fact, the kind of people that manufacturing requires today is very different. Most of the manufacturing setup are working with contractuals due to the costs in the system, because our current pricing structure does not allow us to skill up almost all operators in the organization. So you work on a ratio of casuals, which are normally 10th or 12th grade cleared, and DETs or engineers model, right? The ratios could be different. Certain companies might be working totally on casuals. Certain could be working on 30-70 and certain could be on 50-50. But very few organizations are 100% on a DET or technical model, 100% workforce. Very few. But when you get digitalization, you need a mind that can interpret the data right and execute for agility and sustainability. Now, that's a very, very important aspect which nobody can ignore. Getting just digitalization without the right mind in the organization would not lead to the desired results. So this is one important point which is coupled with digitalization. Second is sustainability of the business. Digitization has really helped in sustainability of a business. For example, the alarms are on time. Any quality issues, the interpretation, the analysis can be done faster. The resources can be immediately brought in together through digital media. Earlier you used to wait. Now on a click of a button, you can get everyone together, consult people, get the video consultancy and get the things. Again, sustainability gets covered and has to be protected by the skill and interpretation of human mind. So these aspects come here also. So agility, sustainability has to be coupled with the kind of people you're going to have in the organization. So the message that I want to give today is digitization, to be successful, has to be coupled with the mind power of the workforce in the organization. Just alone, it won't be able to function. Thank you.
I agree with you completely. I think, when you look at both agility and sustainability, I think the human mind and then the human talent play such a very important role. Otherwise, you can go tangential. I completely agree. This is a very important aspect. Now, let me come to you, Parminder. I think you also work with a huge number of manufacturing companies in a variety of sectors. I would like to, take up the topic of challenges faced by manufacturing in general today. Okay, when you look at the key challenges in manufacturing, particularly in the Indian context, how do you see that? And how do we, convert these disruptions into opportunities? And how does digital play an enabling role in this? What's the approach? What could be the strategies? I think I would leave that broad canvas to you. Yeah, Parminder, please.
Thank you, Mr. Anbu. Nice listening to Mr. Vineet and as well as Mr. Jagdish points. I could relate to them while they were sharing, and it gives me a good platform to, explain the point you have raised. See, personally, if you ask me, I see as that, there's a need to have a clear digital strategy. Before doing anything, first of all, the company or the organization needs to have a clear digital strategy to, which is key to, turn the disruptions into opportunities as we move ahead in this future. So organization needs to adapt and have readiness for those transformational changes today and as they're happening, not in future, but as they're happening. Let me explain you, few of the challenges which are there. First is, how can you bring your customer into your design process? See, earlier, we were very familiar with mass production. One thing which is sold to everybody, but today our customer is, very, very much specific. He wants, market of one. He wants his requirement to be, considered, and for that he's ready to pay more. So that's why mass customization is replacing, what we call it as mass production. So by focusing on personalization basis market and customer demand, and mind you, all this has to be done upfront in the design process. The mass customization for, let's say, commercial vehicle, for a car, for any other product, two-wheeler, cannot be done in the end stage. You have to start thinking of that from the design process itself. And I think that's the key today. So creating personalization opportunities upfront in the design process. And then, since mass customization can be a big theme, so you need to use automation to do that. And once you use automation, you let the customer pick and choose, what they want to do. So you must have seen today with all the large automotive OEMs, you have this option available. Nike is doing it for their shoes. There are many examples which you can go through. So mass customization is certainly one of the key ones. I think the other key area is the second point which I want to bring to your notice is, and the speakers also mentioned about is that how do you increase, the internal teams, suppliers and customers, if we extend it, to share ideas for making a better product. Ideally we call it in our language collaboration, which was also mentioned earlier. See, design teams are expected to create the best product and also, meet the maximum needs which customer may have and our, manufacturing department may also have as we develop or go through the process. And this can only be done by, bringing a collaborative platform where all the stakeholders are involved from the beginning. See, the moment you bring all the stakeholders from the beginning, you have great ideas, you can design better products. You're also aware of all the challenges, which are, very key to, understand and ensure that, you are able to design to, address those challenges. So creating a collaborative design environment, I think is a must. People are doing it. And I think a lot of companies who are not ready saw that impact during the initial period of pandemic. People started working from home, and if the collaboration was not available, designer is separate, manufacturing team is separate, supplier is separate. So that created silos and a lot of disruption in the whole way of working. So, I think that's certainly a very important area to, consider. Third is, how can you use new technologies to future-proof your competitive advantage? What I'm referring to here is, something called as flexible manufacturing. Today, manufacturers are expected to offer great flexibility in what they produce and also, how they produce. Those with manufacturing capabilities who can support a shorter product runs, use new materials, and even, can reconfigure their lines to, produce different products. Or even if not reconfigure, design the lines in such a way that they can, produce multiple products. I will give you example is, how can you have a scooter and a motorcycle on the same line, or maybe a phone and a tablet on the same line. So these are important areas which today, our customers are facing the challenge and they need to address them. Last but not the least, I think customer experience has also become a very important challenge to address. What I mean by that is that today when you are doing all the selling, to a large extent online, so you need to, ensure that the best quality of your product is represented in front of the customer. You cannot take chance on, so you have to ensure that they have a lifelike experience of your product. And that's must, so that's another area, where I feel that as we move forward, our customer needs to ensure that customer experience for their customer also improves. So these are the areas, where I think I feel that, companies need to act on.
I agree completely. I think these are all certainly great opportunities as we move forward. Flexible manufacturing, customer experience, and also collaborative approach using all stakeholders. And also right in the beginning, you mentioned mass customization. Okay, I certainly see, there are I think there are huge opportunities if we take the right direction. Okay, thanks for that perspective. Okay, so we would start our second round. So Jagdish, let me come back to you once again. I think I would take up a very important, interesting subject here. The moment we talk about digital innovations, okay, so we assume, many of us assume, that success is automatic. It may not be. Okay. And once companies initiates this journey, okay, in the digitalization, how do you determine that this journey would fundamentally improve the operations or improve the efficiency? Okay. In other words, let me add few other questions just to help you to bring out the best. But can there be yardsticks available? Okay. And how do you know we are in the right direction? If you want to do the course correction, would that be very expensive, or are we flexible? And then, how do you choose benchmarks? So these are some of the questions in the minds of people. So I would like to have your perspectives. In a sense, how do you get the best out of this entire deal? That's the question. Yeah, please.
Sure, Anbu. So one, I think I'm going to pick up from what Vineet mentioned, very important point, because he spoke more as a CEO and CEO's mind. So you heard some of those, what Vineet spoke is important. And Parminder spoke about strategy, right? So let me start with, see, first of all, I think you have to have a very clear-cut digital strategy married to your business. So there's no one size fits all, right? And if you look at companies, broadly, there are two ways of categorizing it. One, the manufacturing companies like ours, which is logistics heavy or asset heavy. The other one is where, it is very nimble, agile, and very customer centric. So if you look at, so you have to first understand what are you? Are you the logistic heavy, asset heavy manufacturing industry? Are you a very agile and a customer facing business where the changes are going to be very rapid in terms of what is expected from the market? And within that, there are three characteristics of a company, and you have to map your strategy to one of them, and you have to be absolutely clear in which direction you're going. One, you could put your bet entirely on transforming the customer experience. So what I call as customer-centric digital, where you you can put your money in becoming, I'm going to differentiate myself in the way I create experience for my customers. Second, you could say, I'm going to use digital to differentiate the way I develop and innovate on new products. This is another set of companies. Third set of companies are who are going to differentiate to use the way they run their operations. So you have to decide, predominantly, all of us belong to all these categories. All of us have customer centricity. All of us have innovation and product design. All of us have operations. But you have to make up your mind when you make the digital strategy, where would you want to put your bet? Because I would say it's impossible for you to say that I will put my money and my resources everywhere and make a transformation. That's deemed for failure, So choose your battle carefully in terms of, these are the three areas. And what is, at that point in time, what is the priority for you as a top management, as a strategy? Are you going to create customer experience which is differentiated? Are you going to excel in your cost reduction and the way you run your operations? Or are you going to excel in the way that you turn out new products to the market? So first is align yourself to which is the area where you want to put your money. Then the benefits then automatically fall into place in terms of what is important. Things which are common for all of this is, if you are digitalizing yourself, your processes should become simplified, number one. If your processes become complicated, don't be in a myth that you are digitalizing. Okay, you are not. You are basically taking, if you are going to take all your old broken processes and put digital layer on top of it, you better don't do digital. So fix your process, simplify it, number one. Number two, if you are talking about yourself as digital, be extremely clear that it has to be run by, it's no more of the IT folks or the CIOs who run the business. Digital has to be driven by the person who is going to run it, the process. I call the process or the marketing or those people. And once you do that, then start measuring the benefits, both in terms of intangible and tangible. And intangibles, unfortunately, these are intangibles because we don't have a measurement system in the organization. Are you making decisions faster? And I heard Vineet giving a lot of examples of how the decision-making in the organization is becoming faster. Unfortunately, we don't measure any of this as a metric. We measure our productivity. We measure the production. We measure the defects. But we never measure the time that we take to make decisions. And that's a sense of agility. If you start measuring, are you making faster decisions? Is the approvals becoming faster in the organization? If you are so digitalized, where papers do not travel, are your approval cycles completely crumbling down from, let's say, 20 days to 2 days? So my measure is not, incremental 1 day, 2 day decrease. My measure is 10x improvement in the approval cycle, 10x improvement in the speed of decision making. These are intangible management decisions that drive digital. Now, when you come to tangible, one, are you moving up the ladder in terms of your customer satisfaction? Are you moving up the ladder in terms of creating the omni-channel customer experience? Are you moving up the ladder in terms of able to get to the customer with more products faster than your competition? I would measure that as my benefit of my digital. All my projects and money should be very clearly scoped out to what is the end result, what is the end outcome I am looking at. If you look at a manufacturing shop floor, Vinit mentioned about OEE. Is my machine downtime going down? Is my failure between two going down? Is my maintenance cost going down? Is my product cost going down? Is my turnaround time going down? Is my product mix optimized? Is my planning, the entire planning that the way I'm doing, am I doing faster planning so my lead time of the entire business cycle improves? These are very tangible metrics you should measure. And you should lock yourself into some of these metrics if you really want digital to give results. And the third part is employee experience. Okay, and in digital world, I think if you want a customer experience, digital customer experience to your customers, you better have a digital customer experience for your employees. Without that, it's not going to happen. If you do not turn your processes digital for your customer and for your employees, forget creating an experience for your customer. So measure what you have done for your employees in a tangible manner. Training, competency development. Are you really making the capabilities better? Measure hardcore metrics in your operations and in your factories. Measure hardcore metrics in terms of, are you reaching the goods faster to the customer? Is the customer satisfaction increasing? And most important is culture change in terms of faster decisions, faster approvals, faster turnaround of your entire value chain from supplier to you to customer. So you have to have metrics very clearly defined and go behind those. Put a measurement system. It is difficult. And how much of your decisions you have automated? Measure that. What you used to be doing manual. Can you tell me how much you automated? The other tangible measurement, again, I'm picking up on one when it said that when you get the alarms and alerts today, one simple metric you can put it, over the next 6 months, let's reduce the number of alerts. That means you are becoming better. If you are able to reduce the number of alerts, the operations is becoming better. So put these metrics and then train your people to measure these metrics, simplify the process, and then put a very clear-cut responsibility on the business and choose your projects with care. Do not just, I agree with both Parminder and Vinit. It's not that you take everything and digitalize, it's going to give you benefit. No, choose your battle carefully.
Thank you. I think that gives a clear message. You said metrics are important and the only mantra is measure, measure, and measure. There is no other choice. And you also said that, choose the battleground very carefully. I think if you want to be taking all the battles together, I think you may not go in the right direction. I completely agree with you on that. So now with that, let me come back to you, Parminder, again, as part of the second round. So I would like to take up again another important aspect, sustainable products and plans. Okay. So, every company aspires to achieve, see great, results in these two areas. Okay. So how does technology, help the process? How does digitalization, help the companies and then the top management in achieving desired results? Do we see results already happening, in the Indian context? What is your observation, your perspective?
Thank you. A lot of insight in what Mr. Jagdish just mentioned, and I will use that as I go through in my explaining this question which you have asked. So first, let me set the stage. The manufacturing industry, including automotive industry, almost produces 90% of the global greenhouse gas. And by 2050, the growth in population, demand for consumer goods, this is all going to, increase the requirement for energy, almost double, what we are using today. And as you know, India follows US and China on greenhouse emission. The impact and trends combined with customer demand for more environment-friendly products as well as environmental regulations are driving manufacturers to commit to a sustainable and circular outcome in their work. And I'm going to explain more on this. So manufacturing companies that address these opportunities could certainly see a lot of potential. Even a revenue potential, what the analysts are saying, is of almost to the tune of 340 billion from new sustainable products and services in short to medium term. And then you have heard about recently government has also announced vehicle scrappage policy. With the circularity in the manufacturing sector, this can also create a value of almost 624 USD billion by 2050. So additionally, creating workflows that favor recycling and closed loop manufacturing can reduce carbon emissions. But remember this, while doing all this, you have to think again in the design process. So you need to invest, you need to think that how you're going to make more sustainable plants and more sustainable products. I'll give one couple of examples. Let's say you're looking at disassembly of something, after 20 years of working or 15 years of working. All that has to be thought through in the beginning. When you're doing the design, that how do we make this product so that, after retirement or, after the finishing its life cycle, how this can be, taken off the work. Secondly, in manufacturing, circularity begins with the design. If you design for sustainability, let's say, you have a plant that can maintain a balance across, you have the part designs, which are again considered, like you consider the materials, sustainable materials. You also follow the process. Even your mold and machines, need to be thought through in that direction. So companies plan for an optimized and efficient design, have a clear path for sustainable materials with a focus on reduced manufacturing cost, and I will say leveraging new technologies, which is important, to get the return on investment. See, today, I will say that digital technologies such as AI and machine learning can really help organizations in making sustainable products. Like Mr. Jagdish mentioned, that I want to see, 10x kind of improvement in decision making. Now, how do you do that? See, today, when we are working in a series way of, doing the design, or to, let's say, some extent of, parallel activities, we are still not able to, consider all the boundary conditions, all the conditions which define the product. Usually what we do is when we are designing a new product, we may consider 10, 15, 20 conditions, or, the parameters. But to make this decision making faster, what you need to do is automate the process of, giving more options to the designer. And how do you do that? This is done through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation. One such example, what Autodesk is doing is, we call it as generative design. Or if you are familiar with design of experiments, that's what we are bringing into the picture. So we are taking the boundary conditions and we are using the technology to give all the options which are available in that space, so that the 10x kind of decision making can be done. And that can only be done when I give you all the options. If I only give you 10 options, chances are that after 6 months, you're again hitting the drawing board. So that's number one, where we are supporting a lot of activities. In fact, we did a survey also, with leading consultants. And we conducted survey of designers, engineers, procurement, operation, and production professionals in the range of design and manufacturing industry to better understand the impact of sustainability issue in those areas. And you'll be surprised to know 64% of respondents stated that reducing material waste in production was the top priority in decision making, followed by material use in products in design and operational energy used during production. So around these, we are driving various initiatives. I'll give you an example. Decathlon, which is, we all are familiar in India now. They are making, high performance bicycles. Usually high performance bicycles are not very environment friendly because they are made of carbon. They have used a different approach. They went with the generative design, used a different material like aluminum. And now they are making a product which is lighter in weight, easier to transport, and at the same time giving you all the performance which is required, and then also environment friendly. So this is one example, where I'm talking about how we are supporting, the sustainable product design. But you can extend the same to the plants, to the factories, to the large facilities what we have, and how do we make them more sustainable? As you know, Autodesk is one of the leaders in this field. I'm going to cover more on manufacturing, but certainly with respect to large buildings or organizations also, we do a lot of work. So for factory, there are solutions that can support efficient planning and validation of factory layouts and equipment placement to maximize production performance. And this helps save time, money, energy, and material that are often wasted due to poor design and inefficient production cycle, which create bottleneck, machine idling, slow product runs. Mr. Sani just mentioned earlier also some of the points. I will come back to them. So manufacturers can reduce energy use by up to 25%. Mind you, 25%, and increase productivity through smart and connected manufacturing techniques. So that's another way, how Autodesk is helping its customers to do so. And what we are trying to do is bring everything, all this information on a single platform so that the people can take the decision faster rather than, collating the information from 10 different systems and then trying to figure out what is to be done. So this is how, digitalization is helping companies to make more sustainable products and plants.
Okay, I think, thanks. You touched, several points there, and also getting all the possible options very early in the process is very, very important. And digitalization, I can see that helping in multiple ways for the companies to really, consider all those options and then go in the right direction. I think certainly your high performance bicycle has given, as pointed out as a very good process as an example. Thanks for that. Let me again come to you, Vinit. And I want to take up here one of the very critical, subjects, talent and talent management. Okay, the entire manufacturing game. That's very important. Okay, so in general, when we look at the outcome of any company, it depends very much on talent and talent management. Okay, so my specific point here is how do you look at technology to enable talent and talent management, especially when you look at in today's world where the manufacturing shop floor need to transform from the earlier regime to a completely different one, keeping the future requirements in mind. And in this again, how do you look at the ways and means of getting the best? Do we need to rapidly modify in terms of approach compared to what we are doing, or what we need to be doing? And what is your experience in this? How do you see this getting unfolded in the coming years? Vinit, please.
Yes, Anbu, thank you. And thank you, Jagdish and Parminder. I relate so very well with all the points that you people have raised. Very interesting. Before I come to your specific question, Anbu, I just want to say that what I feel with digitalization, we have the option to move from monitoring lag indicators to lead indicators. This is in one line. So digitalization is providing the top management the option to move from reviewing lag indicators, typical reviewing the MIS of the previous month by the 3rd of the next month. That's post-mortem. This patient has expired, is dead. You are just analyzing why he died. But that is not the business. Business is correct the things when they are to be corrected. So digitization is helping a lot in monitoring the lead indicators, knowing when the things go wrong, correcting them well in time or before time. Because digitalization also helps you in predictive maintenance. So that's a very, very important point, which I wanted to bring after all this discussion. Now, I was smiling when you were asking this question of talent. So I will give you my honest opinion. The first and foremost talent that is to be managed is the top management. No change will happen unless there is a discipline precision and clarity of mind at the top. What needs to be done? Trust me, the business will go to dogs if we do digitization for the sake of digitization. So the topmost thing is a clarity of mind, decision to change the way of thinking of the top management. That is point number one and most important. And I want to give you this example where digitization doesn't help. It's again a personal experience. All through the pandemic, the reviews which were agenda based went very fine. Innovations, new way of thinking did not happen. At least my personal experience, where people used to get together, ideate, talk to each other, and come out with new things. Okay, let's do this. This is the right thing. That did not happen. Agenda-based reviews, agenda-based discussions happened and very well happened. That was a good point. But innovations, which come out of discussions, deliberations, you talk about a problem, the informal environment, which lets you speak your mind, I think that is something which we should not ignore at the cost of digitization. Second point is, while I will also give you some example, we could make customer happy on certain things, but the relationship that you develop with your customer or a supplier when you meet personally, when you speak informally, when you know about them, when you know about their likings, when you know about their family and fears, that went missing. So I think that should also not be sacrificed at the cost of digital. These are very, very important aspects. And I will give you actual examples. Customer was very happy. We used to we do Innovation Day on the Engineers Day in India, which is 15th of September. As a rule, to encourage and motivate our engineers, we call Innovation Day. So top management goes, talks to engineers, they can showcase their innovations or the patent file or, and then we invite some customers. A good point was that due to digitization, we could get more number of customers. We could get their lot of focus because there was no travel. And it went very smooth, very well with much better results from the innovation part of it. And trust me, negligible costs. Because earlier we used to organize, we used to give to some agency to create the booths, and there was a travel happening across, people moving from Pune, Bangalore to Delhi or Delhi to, and customer traveling, nothing happened. Almost negligible cost, better results. This is a good part of it. But if you think we can continue for 5 years like this, no, there will be a negativity. You need to engage physically also with the design resources, technical resources to ideate about the application of that innovation. That may not happen over digital media. So this is the blend, the hybrid, which will emerge as we go forward for the success of any business. And again, as Jagdish had said, we need to choose. We need to choose. It's an innovation. Well, talk, meet, talk, ideate, bring out something new. But if it is a format-oriented agenda, well, digitalization, right? So this is the next. We also spoke about connected machines, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality and mixed reality. There are a lot of words coming out, but I want to tell you again, it has taken me painfully, despite my own review, more than a year, trust me, to implement the digitalization the way I want in my one of the plant, which is supposed to be it has taken a year despite focus, because at the end you are dealing with human beings who are not used to something which you want. So the education, and there comes your question on talent. How do we develop that? So their constant training, their e-learning modules have come. But trust me, you can buy e-learning modules, but you don't know whether a person is learning from it or not. And 99.9% he would not. I'm telling you practically. So there has to be a interaction on learning. There has to be a positivity about learning. And there has to be an appreciation to those people who learn fast and who contribute so that the culture improves. And this whole process will be driven by a clear mind of top management, including the corporate HR. I mean, you have an old-fashioned HR head, trust me, no digitalization will happen. It won't, because it's all about people. So it's very important that we have a learning of people, and also we need to get some new blood into the system. It is also very important. The youngsters are savvy digitally. It's a fact, because they are living their life digitally. We need to induce that blood, tell them that you are the nucleus for this change, and they will become opinion leaders to bring the change in culture and also help in reskilling of the current employees. Now, this is a process which should be visible to top in their mind that this is what I am doing and this is how I am monitoring the process. It's a slow process, but very important process. That is my view of that.
I think, Vinit, you touched some of the very interesting and important points. You said it's absolutely the top management clarity of mind is very, very important in the entire process. And while digital has got huge potential, huge ability to change the whole thing, it is certainly not working. It is not automatic when it comes to innovation and also certain areas of customer relationship and also supplier relationship. I think it need to be a blend of both. Then I think we would have the optimum results. I completely agree. I think we are still not ready for digital-only world or digital-only solutions. We need to have the blend of both. The optimum combination is the way forward. I agree with you on that. Okay, we have completed 2 rounds. Let me come to the third round. Okay, so Jagdish, I'm going to start with you once again in the final round. And I will stay with the same domain which Vinit addressed just now. But here, when you look at the workforce, on the whole, the workforce is the role played by the workforce. We all appreciate that. For the overall success of any company, any organization, any manufacturing unit. When you look at tomorrow's world, the age of automation, when you look at the key, imperatives as part of that, how do we look at training and then reskilling? When I say training, I'm talking about retraining and reskilling, because we can't, it's not an area where you simply replace the existing with a, new force. So we need to, strategically, through a process, achieve this. And again, here, the top management's understanding and top management decision making is very, very important. How do you see this area in the Indian context for the next few years? Your perspectives, Jagdish.
So I'm tempted to tell you that, Vinit has answered everything beautifully. The way it's articulated, there is nothing more that I can say beyond what he has said. But let me attempt to, add to what Vinit said. My personal belief is old habits die hard. There's a movie and there is a saying, right? So how are you going to challenge that? So we are all a product of habits that we have built over years, and organizational culture is a set of habits. So how are you going to break that habit starting from the top, not from the workers? We always talk about the change at a worker level, but believe me, that's the easiest to change if you can align the middle management. So I will talk about training and skilling of not the workers, but I'm going to take the liberty to talk about how do you train and skill at the supervisors and the above layer. If they are trained and they are well-versed, believe me, the change at the bottom will happen. Okay. Now I'll give you examples. First is, are we having really open mind to adopt digital? Do we really believe in it, or we are doing it because whole world is doing it? So that is where the agenda starts with what Vinit has so beautifully articulated. Okay. Second is that this technology is not something that is evolved and everybody knows, except the digital natives that, again, what he mentioned, the people who are born in the digital age. For all others, it's something new. I mean, for me, when I took this role as Chief Digital Officer, don't think that I had all the knowledge about digital and came in and started doing. No. You heard Vineet saying it took 1 year to get this in a factory. It's that kind of an effort that's required to actually get people to understand what does digital mean. You have to make them aware. So in fact, so there are a few things. I'll give you practical tips instead of, giving you gyan. One is expose your leadership to immersion sessions. Unless you go and see and talk to people who are doing something. Today, there's nobody who has done a perfect world in digital. So none of us should be in any imaginary world that somebody has done it, nobody has done it. I can tell you that. Okay. Everybody is in different stages. Everybody is figuring out. And all of us are learning together from each other. So first, let them go and see what others are doing. And come back and say, what do I want to do? So that's the first training. If I say, expose your senior managers to somebody who is doing something in digital and have an interactive session. Don't try to teach them in a classroom. You can get the greatest of consultants and then say, I'm going to send my leadership for a 7-day workshop. Nothing will happen. Okay. Except they will come train. So because it's not about training, it's about training. It's about how do you apply that trained knowledge into your work, and then how do you become upskilled to competency. So we are here talking about not digital training, we are talking about digital competency, creating a digital competency by which all these technologies that we are creating can be fruitfully applied by the people for business benefit, right? So one, take the image. Second is spend a lot of time, assume that nobody knows anything about digital. If you assume that everybody knows, it's okay. Many people won't come and tell you they don't know, but believe that they don't know and start from fundamentals. Expose them to fundamental. What is an RPA? What's a robotic process automation? What is a blockchain? You won't believe the response I got after the blockchain session. We did for 4 hours. Saying, wow, we didn't know it can do so much. So it actually triggers the thoughts in terms of this. If this is what the blockchain is, then immediately the next day, we got 100 use cases. People just start innovating on that one technology and tell you so many possibilities. Till that session happened, people would not talk to you on blockchain because they don't know. But they will not tell you that they don't know. So you have to understand that in this world, it's important for you to proactively engage. And even if they know, assume that they don't know and give them very simple awareness sessions. And it has done a world of wonders for us. 4 hours on IoT, 4 hours on blockchain, 4 hours on what is RPA, 4 hours on what is connected plant, 4 hours on what is a sensor, 4 hours on what is a data lake, 4 hours on what is OT security. Split this topic. These are all very simple topics, but make it very simple for people, engage somebody. And for God's sake, do not outsource training to a third-party academic institution. Okay? They will come and give you all theoretical reasons, and they will not have any view of how it is done on the shop floor. So follow this training with small projects. Engage them in projects, in the design of a blockchain, in the design. So we did that. Okay, now you will lead the project. People who undergo this training, let them lead the project and take a project which is connecting your area of work. See, normally what we do is we say everybody has to take a 5-day training in a year. We train them. And you know what? We don't even know what they're doing with the training. But in digital, do not do that, because you're not only wasting the money and effort, you're actually losing the whole connect of the training with the impact that you want to make. So connect the training to the business impact, give them exposure outside. And now coming to, when we say digital is all about data, your ability to get, and again, I go back to what Vineet said, where is that data and how are you going to keep it available? Train people on how to use data to what it means to their level. The way a CEO looks at the data is not the way an operator looks at the data. It's not the way the supervisor looks at the data. It's the same data, but please teach them how that particular data is going to make is useful for them to make a difference to their work. People always ask, "Karna kya hai?" This is typically, okay, some training is over. Mere ko karna kya hai? So unless you are able to translate these digital technologies or data into this is how your practice is going to change. and it requires hand-holding. Do not believe that somebody comes and trains and goes off. Transformation is not going to happen. You need a 1 year hand-holding. We have done 1 year hand-holding in plants to go to operator and say, data kya hai? What is the data? What is it telling? Where is it coming from? What do you do with the data? It may look very sound, very rudimentary, but that's where you start. Okay. Engage. Teach them how the alerts are, what actions to take. People need the managers to come and be with them when you take the actions. So engage the top management in immersion, engage the top management in awareness sessions, give them a lot of capsules, engage them in project reviews, and give people the training in technology and digital and data on what matters to them. Do not try to teach everybody everything. Just pick, okay, if it's a finance person, what's most relevant is blockchain. Let him observe blockchain first. Let him do 1 or 2 projects. Then give him RPA. Don't teach him IoT from day one. So I think you have to pace it out, be patient about it, and continuously ask what practices have you changed. We measure practice change. Every plant, I ask what practices have you changed in the last 3 months? What has changed? So you have to follow this training and knowledge with what practices are you changing and force the habit. One of the habits we have forced it, morning meeting will now happen only through the previous hour's data. And you will have every hour, there will be a 5 minutes meeting on what is the trend of the last hour. We have replaced the 1 hour morning meeting with capsules of 5 minutes after every hour. And that's how you get people to train them, and don't instill fear that this is going to be very difficult. Nothing is difficult for people if you give it in the way it has to be given. So these are my viewpoints on what we are doing in Hindalco. And the last one, I'm picking up a Vineet. We have identified people in the age group of 21 to 27. We call them digital ambassadors. They drive all these programs, not the senior guys. We have 70 of them in the age group who are digital natives who are driving the entire digital program. So they are your best ambassadors to bring the skill. Yeah.
Okay, I think Jagdish, actually you managed to add quite a few points to what Vineet has covered already. I think it's very good. I think both
of you. That's why I said he said the context and he gave me the field to add. Yeah,
absolutely. Having an open mind is a key, and creating digital competency is absolutely very important, and proactive engagement. Okay, it is not.
Sorry, one more thing. I just want to tell you one thing.
Yeah,
don't allow people to work on Excels. Just take off everything, and then say you have to adapt to the new application or the new digital tools. Don't allow them to fall back on the old practices.
You're making it really difficult for them. That's good. Okay, and then of course training through our projects would really make them understand in a much more efficient manner. I completely agree, and digital ambassadors is a good idea of promoting the entire thing in a different manner. Thanks for that. And Vineet, let me come back to you once again. I want to change the topic, slightly to another area, which is very, very crucial. Okay. When we look at, again, the entire manufacturing and manufacturing companies, companies work on internal efficiencies, okay, to lead to better productivity, better profitability, better market share, and better financial performance, etc. And what sort of turnaround strategies? Okay, otherwise it's not going to be automatic. You could really achieve using digital, achieve really leveraging technology, and how is the process that one could visualize, and you could also look at the entire experience that's happening in not only in auto but also in other engineering segments as well. And my point here is, how can they make sure that they go in the right direction? How can they make sure that they can achieve success? Otherwise, people can really have their own journey where they may get really dissatisfied. So, what is your perspective, your ideas for those companies?
Yeah, thank you, Anbu. And you rightly said, turnaround would always mean, I would say, in a bigger word, cost management. Cost can include material cost. It can include, fixed cost, manpower cost, every overheads, everything. Cost management, and also the price management. That means what you can get from the customer, and the difference is what you earn out. The efficiencies of the company are very important, and that's what make a difference, because your competition is also in the similar world with a similar type of cost structure and pricing structure. But still, some companies do better, some don't do better. And that is where the internal efficiency, what you said, that management comes into picture. Talking typically of manufacturing, and if you go into depth, and I think all of us will relate to it, there are 16 type of losses that we monitor, or mudas that we call in Japanese terms, which could be a loss due to rejections, which could be loss due to motion, a movement of a person. It is also a loss due to excessive production, loss due to stoppage of machines, loss due to maintenance, loss during the tool change time, and there are various losses identified. Having said that, this has been in practice for quite some time. But effective management of these tools has become easier through digitization. Otherwise, it was very tough. Now, as I said, rightly using the data, rightly using the digitization can definitely help us improve all these 16 parameters exponentially if we are able to do it. But again, the point comes that who will do it? If we are expecting the same person to do it without training or without changing culture, results will not change. They will be similar as today. But if we can do a mix and match, bring the skill and teach them that, look, you were struggling to get this information for 10 days. It is now available at your tip. Look what can happen to your decision making, your agility, and that will excite them when you show them the results. And this will help in better and efficient cost management and bring the turnaround in manufacturing. Because see, we being manufacturing organization, our costs are mostly embedded into manufacturing, right? The machines, the high capital investments we do. But there is another area where our costs are embedded, and that I call the white elephant cost, which is management to manage management, right? You have corporate office, you have so many corporate people to manage manufacturing. And I think in a right digitized world of manufacturing, this white elephant overhead will come down and will get slightly reallocated to cyber security. Because cyber security will take a prominent place, which will help in this entire process. So I feel personally, following this route for manufacturing will be extremely effective, coupled with a quick win training to our people who will start relying more on digitization. That will be really helpful for any organization.
Yeah, I completely agree with that aspect. I think it's good to have clarity right in the beginning, so that whether the 16 types of losses or the white elephant, what you mentioned, I think these areas also need to be addressed in a proper manner, so that I think the turnaround strategies can really become useful for companies in the right perspective. Thank you for that. And now let me come to you, Parminder. As part of the third round, I think in today's situation, everyone talks about new normal. Okay, so when you look at the new normal and in the post-COVID world, and what is the special value brought in by the digital twin, in your perspective, and you are very familiar with those aspects. And also particularly as Autodesk, when you look at, you work with a variety of companies in variety of segments. What is the special, I would say, the customer perspective or the value addition to customer that you see happening for better efficiency, especially when you talk about the new normal, scenario? And also, how do you see this, entire thing unfolding in the next few years? So what's your, views on this?
Thank you, Mr. Anbu. Before I go ahead, I certainly want to pick on, or mention what Mr. Vineet and Mr. Jagdish mentioned. And I've been, part of many such exercise where the CXOs have led, transformation in the organization. And as Mr. Vineet said, you certainly have to ensure that top management is aligned to your vision or to the change. And whenever the top management is aligned to the change, I have seen those results to be very effective. I've seen the CXOs driving those steering committees and driving the projects to achieve the end result. So that's a very important one. And second is the culture, which I think Mr. Vineet as well as Mr. Jagdish mentioned, that for large projects or transformations what you're driving, you ideally have to change the culture in the organization. And the way the examples given, bringing the new blood, taking the whole organization into the picture, even including the HR. I guess those are the ways, where some examples, to bring such a change. Otherwise, the digitalization as such, whatever you're doing, you're basically bringing a transformation in the organization. And such initiatives with culture and with the top management are very successful in whatever I have seen earlier. So thanks, and very useful insight what you shared. Coming to how digital twin is being used or what value it can bring to our customer, I like to share from the both sides, from design and manufacture. Though there are numerous usages of digital twin, I can keep going and discussing about it. In every aspect of life we can use digital twin. But to take few examples, one is to the ability to adapt quickly in I will say manufacturing is critical for long-term business growth. And essential point of digital twin is the ability to design and test products. You see, today when we are designing products, parts, assemblies, or a large infrastructure, we most of the time, or where the parts are or the die is on one-off. You cannot have a production a test made and then the final production one, because you will increase the cost by 100%. So you need to have a digital twin when you talk about a part or a product or an assembly, and bring all the analysis which you have to do, all the kinematic studies which you have to do in a digital environment, and ensure that when you are going on the production line, you have the product which is acceptable to your customer. Even to the point of manufacturing, when you have to cut a die or a mold, you need to ensure that digitally you have validated everything, all aspects, the controller, the machine, whatever is involved in making that particular product. So that's one example of digital twin in making a product. Even let's say in today's world, EVs, which are being worked on by many of the companies, you need to ensure that all aspects of your products are validated upfront in a digital environment. It can be your logics which are there. Once you have designed the logic, how physical and the logical part will behave together. Maybe bringing that on part of your on your 3D model, and that's where you get the added advantage. So like that, there are many examples which can be done on the product side. If you go to the manufacturing side, basically a digital twin, or on the plant side, I'm saying a digital twin virtually represents a real world of all the assets with the benefits of continuous real-time data from the objects. And in manufacturing, the digital twin provides insight to help or improve business practices and reduce downtime and increase ROI. I think some of the points were mentioned earlier also, that predictive maintenance, how can we figure that out, or as well as, reduce or take the better decisions by, getting all this information. So to give you an example on the plant or a factory side is one of our customer, the name is Nest. Now the solar facade which is there, that exists as a library in our one of our product called as Autodesk Fusion 360. And they went ahead and digitized or scanned the whole plant or the factory which was there, and then used the sensor data from all over the plant to put it in the building data and take the decisions based on that. So that's a digital twin of the whole plant or the whole building. Another example is, and in manufacturing what happens is that we have noticed that there are multiple systems doing in this area. Like for issues you have a different system, you will have a SCADA, you will have IoT, and then so on and so forth. But at the same time, the manufacturing people need to take decisions. So how do you enable that? Imagine now that you have the whole factory which is there, maybe a steel plant or maybe a plant which is making, a particular part. And then, each area is already digitally scanned. All the MES data, if it is there, or IoT data or the SCADA data is virtually imposed on that 3D data. So that's where you get the digital twin. It's not only the 3D data, it's also the real-time data when imposed on it, helps you to make the decision faster. And especially in today's world, you are not visiting all the plants today, but you need to have as good view as possible if you are, actually there. How can you do that? So we help our customers to scan the plant, take the inputs from various sources which might be there, as mentioned earlier, IoT, SCADA or MES, and impose on the digital data which is there, 3D data. And that gives our customers sort of a cockpit of all the plants and help them to take the decisions. So that's another way we are helping our customers with the digital twin strategy and help them to make decisions faster. See, the overall benefits what customer get is optimized performance, very rightly mentioned multiple times, full view of all the data at a single place, then smarter predictions or whatever failures are going to come or the good things are happening, you can know up in advance. Like you are having a 5 minutes meeting. Imagine you have this kind of data, how it helps you to take a better call or a better decision. And last but not the least, I think the crux is that our customer wants faster results. They want to take decisions so that they get the results which are right, and that's what we support through this initiative. So I'll say, Anbu, that these are the key things which we are doing on our digital twin strategy.
Thank you, Parminder. I think that's a very quick overview of how the digital twin could be sort of leveraged for the overall, success and then overall improvement in the context of manufacturing. Unlimited possibilities, whether one has to go through this and then gain their own experience and their own, results. Thank you for that. I think we are certainly running out of time. I think we are coming towards the end of the, panel discussion. We've had a great, deliberation. We had a great discussion, in fact, with all the three experts. We covered a whole lot of subjects, starting with, strategies for overall approach in terms of digitalization. And then we went on to touch turnaround, strategies. We looked at talent, we looked at talent management, we looked at innovation, and then we looked at, how the people aspect could also be, leveraged in the best possible manner. So let me thank all of you gentlemen, Jagdish, Vineet, and Parminder, for making this truly, value-adding session. Now, quickly, without losing much time, let me hand it over to Sanjay and then Amrita. Sanjay and Amrita.
Thank you, Mr. Varadhan. We have received a couple of interesting questions from our audience. If I have your permission, can we address at least two of these?
Please, the whole session is yours now.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is, for companies already using some sort of technologies or are at a certain level of digital transformation, how do they assess their current standing to decide where they lack and what needs to be done to achieve their digitalization goal?
Okay, so I think it's a good question. There are two ways of doing it. One, you definitely have to baseline yourself, okay, in terms of where you are and marry that to your digital strategy. So typically you start digital with some pilot projects to start with, but quickly you should scale that up into what exactly are you trying to improve. So once you do that, then you do a baseline. And I would say baseline for digital has got multiple aspects, right? What is the problem you're trying to solve? Hence, what is the data you require? So where are you in the data acquisition? First, I will say, do you have the data? Second, do you have the data that is believable, what I call data integrity? Third, what is the source of data? Fourth is, in what form is it available to you? So we have, you have to measure this baseline maturity in around 5 or 6 areas. And then you ask whether this problem that you are trying to solve, does it have sufficient data to require to solve the problem or not? And then you marry that with the technology. Whether this problem requires a RPA, this problem requires a blockchain. So take the problem and marry the technology and data, not the other way. Take the problem that I'm trying to solve and do a baseline of where you are. And that's what works best. And as you do more projects and your data infrastructure improves, this will become, then you have to start measuring the digital maturity. But so there is one medicine for starting and there is one medicine for scale up. So depending on where you are, you can adopt either one of them.
Thank you, Jagdish. Amrita, you have another question?
Yes. So the next question is, with the manufacturing environment changing, the focus of manufacturing industry is not only on capacity building, but also ability to respond to changing market conditions. How can companies achieve this responsiveness while maintaining cost and quality?
Again, a good question. And, last 1 year has taught us that if your supply chain is connected and communicating well and have the right systems, they can handle the changing market conditions. And auto industry probably is one of the best examples which went through V-shaped recovery. In a very short time. We haven't done it in the past. I have been in auto industry for 34 years. We haven't done it in the past. But we successfully managed that and managed well despite top management and key people not being there. Some were suffering from COVID or some were having fear not to come out, but hats off to the manufacturing people on the shop floor. Despite COVID, they were on the shop floor and manufacturing. So example, the simple example of schedule handling in the supply chain and logistic handling in the supply chain, right from the customer to tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. The visibility of schedules and logistics through digital portal systems helped company come out very successfully with the changing market condition. Very simple example. Second simple example is ensuring payments digitally helped the supply chain to sustain because they were promptly getting payments on time without unnecessary paperwork and all that. So these are very simple aspects of digitalization which really help the organization to tide over the changing market situation. I think these are very simple examples, but we can go into details also, but time is a constraint, but just wanted to give these simple examples.
Thank you. Thank you, Vineet. Amrita, any further questions?
Well, we have two more. If the panelists and you are okay with it, we can probably proceed with it.
If you have time, we can proceed. I think we are reaching the end of.
Yeah, let's finish it off. Let's take 2 more questions. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sure. While companies, manufacturers understand the benefits of digital integration, how should they go about when ROI is a major factor in this testing time? What strategy should they adopt?
Maybe I can suggest something and then...
Yes, Parminder, please.
Can add to that. See, usually when we are engaging with the digital strategy, I think the key to look at is, what is the business driver for that organization? What are they trying to achieve in, let's say, 1 year or 5 year or 3 year plan? And that's where, so basically business drivers are the key. And from there, breaking it down into smaller pieces is the valuable thing, what the process as is. And then, propose what can be done with digitalization to, overcome that challenge. Maybe it's the ECNs which are getting raised so many, we need to address them or various issues. So we need to find out those issues and then solve them. So it is all linked to business drivers, certainly. And then, what is the benefits they're looking at, and then finding out the issues on the shop floor or within the organization, and then enabling them with the technology to overcome those issues or challenges. That's how I will like to respond to this question.
So, Amrita, did I hear ROI in digitalization?
Yes.
So I have a reverse question. Companies with a good swanky corporate office, what was the ROI envisaged while building that corporate office? So if you go into detail of this question and get the answer, companies have corporate office. Their ROI is, it's very difficult to find out. And I can tell you, even in digitization, today on paper, it is very difficult. It is, as I think Jagdish mentioned, there is no company which is properly digitized. Everybody is trying at some location, something. But I can share with my experience, whatever we have tried little with digitization, it is really nice. It is really nice, trust me. You see the smooth operation, you see an efficient operation, and you feel you are in control of operation. And I think that's very important. That is, and ROI will come. So again, Parminder had said about digital roadmap. I'm sure when you are talking of ROI, you need a digital roadmap, but it's not easy to make. I would suggest to take small pilot projects, feel for yourself, and then take a call on a bigger, investments where ROI is really important.
Thank you. Initiating is more important. Yeah, Amrita, you have another question?
Yes. So the last question is, what are the technology enablers available to companies? What solutions do you offer for the manufacturing industry in the supply chain and smart factory space?
So, for smart factories, certainly the areas of the processes which we try to address is that how do you make a plant or a plant, which is best utilized from the point of view having the right equipment for the production what you're looking at, or the same plant is able to manufacture multiple products or the products in the same line. That's number one. Second is, as Mr. Vineet mentioned about OE or the mean time failure. So these are all informations which you gather during the process. But I will say that, one has to be very careful, what you want to capture. So we provide the facility to, have the digital twin where you can have all the information collected from your sensors, other systems, and place it on the digital data, and then make the decision making for the smart plant. But again, with the pointer that please collect only the data, whatever is most important for you. Like Mr. Vineet mentioned, 16 different points which they are very clear. They need to map or they need to, improve. So those data we can provide and help organization to, improve their efficiency and the usage in that particular plant. So that's the area which we work on. But I think the first point which we mentioned, we also help customers to, whatever the production process they are planning to use, before the product is launched, we can validate that for them. We can, ensure that, the process which is defined is, efficient. There's no bottleneck in the manufacturing setup, what they are designing. So those are the areas which we can work here in the manufacturing plant when you are setting up, and as well as on the smart plant.
Okay, very good.
So I can just only add, and if you don't mind.
Sure,
so
yeah, please.
My thing will be, you check 3-4 projects, 3-4 areas where you think you need to solve the problem. Take problems that can be solved within 3 to 4 months, and then you'll yourself figure out what is the technology and what needs to be done. Start there, everything you'll figure out.
So
it's a very, very effective
problem, basically. The issues which are there, and then you work towards finding the right solution. Yeah, that's what we also.
Because your bigger challenges will come only when you start to scale up. But when you are in the beginning of the journey, I think you first get a handle of what are you trying to solve, and then you will learn how to solve it. You will find a lot of suppliers and vendors coming your way. Be careful in choosing them, but then you learn. There's no ready-made. There's no easy answer to this.
And just to add, I think Jagdish mentioned before also, it is good to visit certain organizations who are doing these jobs, because it brings a lot of insight. And I think it's a good starting point for anybody, even for me. I visited a company and learned so much from there, and then it gives you ideas, food for mind. Okay, we can also do. You can relate, right? So sessions like this, what we are discussing, and visiting organizations which are following digital path, that is a good starting point for making your own digital strategy.
That's right. It shortens the learning period.
Yeah, correct.
A big thank you to all the gentlemen today. I think nobody noticed we spent a good amount of time in today's discussion, and discussion was well knowledge based. I think each one of wanted to discuss more on this, but looking at the time constraint today, what we have spent, I would like to, wholeheartedly thank all Mr. Jagdish, Mr. Vineet, Mr. Parminder, and Mr. Anbu. I think you put it in the right perspective. You gave each of our panelists a good amount of time, answering those very relevant questions today. I think we have a bigger takeaway from this discussion today, which we are going to post on our manufacturingtodayindia.com platform and social media for the larger audience to witness this quite engaging discussion. And I am sure all of you must have really enjoyed the discussion, and there will be many more discussions to come in future. And we may again disturb you and take your time for certain discussions, where we need your presence. I think to bring away the last moment, I think it's great to bring digital transformation. We need to start thinking now. It's more adopting a new lifestyle for the companies going forward, taking care of their well-being of their company, employees, assets, and the overall management, and see how the productivity will grow in terms of adopting these successful transformations, which needs to be adopted at the right interval. Thank you, gentlemen. The video recording of this will be posted to all of you in your email IDs. And we look forward to welcome you on board once again with an interesting topic, interesting session. Thank you, Jagdish ji. Thank you, Vineet. Mr. Vineet. Thank you, Mr. Parminder. And thank you, Anbu sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Amrita as well.
Thank you. And knowing all of you, it has been a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure. I really enjoyed. Thanks very much. Thanks all of you.
Thank you.